All right, and welcome back to the Scale Debate, where we're asking the big questions, and the answers are usually half philosophy and half mumbles. I am Vinny O'Brien, your RMW referee for week two. You were expecting the referee, but you got the janitor. I'm sorry. Taking a hot seat from Rick Watson. Big shoes to fill, some might say, but I've met him, and they're not, thankfully. Last week, Suze Dowling took home the title with a killer set of answers on take home on the platform blame. Tonight, she's back to defend her crown, and we ask, why does the total cost of ownership feel so total? Watson was a little too nice last week, I think. So these five pros are going to be under pressure and put under the microscope a little bit more this week. Don't forget, this is week 2 out of 10 questions. We're asking these seasoned pros each week. We will release a topic of the day. We need your knowledge and industry expertise and audience participation to decide who brings home the bacon and who is the turkey. This is, of course, brought to you by SCAYLE in partnership with RMW Commerce, and SCAYLE are not afraid to ask the tough questions. Today, we find out if you are TCO or TC no. So sit back, relax, and enjoy today as I'll be your host, therapist, and reluctant referee. 5 voices, 1 question, 100 opinions, and at least 3 hidden costs that no one planned for. Let's hit it, Libby.
Yes, I agree. TCO is misleading. If it slows you down, it's expensive regardless of the line item cost. So I think if you measure speed to value, that is a better way to measure success. So how fast features get shipped and drive revenue, and you factor in opportunity costs. So what innovation is delayed by tech debt and vendor constraints. So really looking at evaluating team velocity and operational burden over licensing fees is the way to go.
Matt Ezyk, a man there with few words. He says velocity matters more than licensing cost. That's spoken like a man who has not cared for pricing in some time. I would not like to be this guy's CFO. Interesting about he's not a design guy, or he is a design guy, I should say. He's economical with words for a reason. He doesn't want the hard questions. It sounds good, it sounds quick, and it poses no big questions until you scratch. Well, I say start scratching, have a think about it, and well, TCO does have a place. Let's line up the next video, Libby. Let's hear from Rob.
Yeah, you're right. TCO is a real difficult measure. And I think about it in 2 dimensions. First of all, there's really a misnomer of total cost for a platform, because e-commerce platform is only one piece of the overall architectural equation. There are going to be anywhere from 5, 10, 15 peripheral types of applications. If that's the boulder, you're going to have a lot of different pebbles filling out the landscape, right? And so you need to, first of all, look at the total cost across all of the stack. Second of all, you're right. Cost is only one part. The other one is return, right? So I'm talking to our clients, historically, obviously in the commerce space and increasingly in the marketing space, in my role at Cordial, about business value. So, we're talking to one retailer right now who not only isn't able to move quickly, but they're looking to consolidate their stack because they're dealing with a lot of different vendors, a lot of different service levels. And if one thing breaks, it often becomes a house of cards. So we're looking for retailers to think about the overall business value in terms of what they're getting in return and what it costs to get there. And cost, again, is only one part of the equation.
Oof. Rob hinting at integration hell here. I can feel your cringe already. 5, 10, maybe 15 different applications until you get to renewal day. Is focusing on the past, though, really the right frame for this? Is TCO and OCO the same thing? Ongoing cost of ownership? I don't know. Integration hell is not the fault of the platform. Maybe it's not even your fault either. SIs are getting it in the head from our cordial friend, Rob. Smiling, but I cannot help feel he looks like the flower, but is trying to be the serpent underneath it. A little bit of Shakespeare there for you, just for added drama. Let's line up the next video and hear from Suze. maybe brew a cup of tea or coffee and sit back. This is probably going to take some time.
There's a big problem with TCO, or like total cost of ownership. It's, I'd say, something that so many people that are not actually in the business like to see. I think it's like every board, every investor will ask you about it. But I actually think it's the wrong number if you care about growth. I think it makes us feel a little bit safe because it's neat and it's tidy and it's in a spreadsheet and we love our spreadsheets. But I think it misses the bigger picture, which honestly, I would argue a lot of people that aren't operators do, which is what can this platform actually enable for us? I think you don't want to be penny wise, pound foolish. Like a platform isn't really about being cheap to run. It's about how do you create that leverage? And then I would argue that leverage really shows up as two places. It's speed or it's stretch. So like what I mean by speed is, does this platform make us faster? Can my team launch campaigns in hours instead of days? Can we run, 10 or 20 experiments a month instead of 2? And then how can we really quickly react and implement the results of those experiments? And that's not just convenience, right? That's really like compounding revenue. Speed really compounds. And so I think the faster you move, the more experiments you can run and the more, likely you are to find those winners. And then the second thing I always look at is stretch. So like, how far can this system take us before it starts breaking? So can it handle, whatever, subscriptions, bundles, international rollouts, whatever the case may be? Because I think sometimes we look at only in the immediate what our needs are versus looking around the corner and then around the corner again, because you don't want to duct tape something together that's like 6 months later, you're finding those kind of weak points. Because each one of those workarounds you may think are really smart of, oh my gosh, we figured out how to hack the system. And I've said that a lot of the time, but it adds hidden cost, right? Every time you're duct taping something together, you're adding fragility. And then those pile up and they make something that was, originally like a cheap platform actually really expensive. And I think a lot of the time people talk about the word of like, I MacGyvered something together as though they're showing some level of ingenuity. But I think it's actually a word that shows messiness and it shows a lack of planning. And it's just not how you build a business, or at least a business that has solid foundations. And I think that's ultimately the paradox. Like a lot of the time, a platform that looks really inexpensive on paper is actually the most costly because it slows you down or it boxes you in. Meanwhile, something that may, look pricey up front, but it doubles your speed or it unlocks something new, like that actually pays for itself many times over. And I think, again, this is why it's so important that whether you're a founder, an operator, someone in a team, that you're working with your finance team, because again, I think you need to make them understand. And it's not like, your CFO can make this decision for you of just saying, oh, it's a cheaper option and it fits in the line item that we had. Like, if that is not what's right for the business, it's the worst choice because the cheap choice is costing more than the expensive one, would have had. And so I think it's like reframing for ourselves how we look at something to say, our job is to maximize velocity and to maximize adaptability in business, because the world is changing so fast. I always say I'm so much smarter today than I was yesterday, let alone, oh my gosh, who was I a month ago or a year ago? And like the customer expectations reset just as quickly. And so if your tech is slowing you down or it's locking you in, you're not saving the kind of money itself, you're just burning opportunity. And I think that itself is the most expensive thing to waste.
Wow, that was a lot. I hope you're still with us. So we have our champ. She's coming back. She's come out punching. Talked to her a lot. Didn't really talk about cost either, what it means. The CFO she mentioned once or twice. Speed versus stretch. We can only stretch so much if we're saving money and generating revenue some other way. So interesting, I think, from Suze. A lot of sense in there, but a lot of truth as well. It's becoming kind of obvious to me that depending on whether you're an architect or an agency or the operator, your point of view is slightly skewed in a different way. And the way you choose to have the conversation is going to be slightly different as well. History is playing a huge role here as well. It's been burnt before, maybe once bitten, twice shy. Are we really accurately reflecting what TCO actually provides for us? I'm not so sure. But again, for those of you playing the game out here, here is my summary. Suze brings it back to people and process, not platforms, a bit like last week, which is basically her saying, you don't need new tech, you need therapy. Let's hear what Dave Finnegan has to say, Libby.
TCO is a finance tool. It's not a cultural one. So it measures cost. It doesn't measure meaning at all. From an experience perspective, the real measure is how good is it at adapting to cultural fit. So as culture changes, as rituals change from behavior, from a shopping and consideration set and a transaction perspective, how adaptable is the platform? I think the way I think about platforms and their true usefulness is their adaptive capacity, their speed to integration, and their openness to new things, especially when it comes to this emerging AI shopping behavior that we're going to see next. So I don't see platforms as a TCO number. I see platforms, true solid platforms, as an ecosystem, and their fitness is measured in how flexible and agile they are.
My God, do not let those dulcet tones fool you. That voice, I could listen to it all day long. It's like the first time I heard the Beatles. But Finn is calling out some important points. They're linked to TCO, like things like poor plannings or briefs. Is TCO a cost guide based on your inputs? You've got to ask yourself those hard questions. And I wonder, do we confuse TCO again with that ongoing cost of ownership? That's something that he's kind of getting into there. So I'm wondering at this point, do we really feel like we've challenged ourselves to think about TCO at all? Have we addressed the big question in the room? We have a budget. We have someone in finance who's going to sign this off. Who really has the power here? Is it marketing or is it finance? Dave's rhetoric sounds a little like the ghost of migrations past, warning retailers that every retail upgrade, you got to deal with the devil that's in the detail and maybe take responsibility of that for that yourself. But I'd love to hear someone coming through with a full-on conversation about what TCO actually means. Let's hope Lee Trotter can get us there, our trusty Canadian. Let's hit it, Libby.
The TCO is a terrible measure because at the end of the day, we're just looking at like, what did this cost us and what's our revenue? But how many of those customers are coming back? How many are delightful? How many new customers do we get? Because at the end of the day, unless we're building our business and our customers are happy, they're just going to leave. So if we look at TCO in isolation, if we look at anything in isolation, it ends up just hurting us because we're not seeing the whole picture of what that looks like. So we will say TCO is doing great, but if our customers all hate us because the platform experience sucks, is our TCO really that good? Probably not, right? Because at the end of the day, the non-tangible things like customer happiness that you have trouble measuring because you can only have so many net promoter scores, as far as the surveys go, make it really difficult to actually get a true measure compared to like, oh, this is costing us $5,000 a month. That's a very hard number versus our customers are kind of like, yeah, they're a little warm this month. They're cold this month. Oh, well, that was Christmas, just after Christmas. It's always a slow time there. Well, maybe it's a slow time because like, the experience was terrible and they were buying it from you before Christmas because no one else carried your product. So, they had to, but the rest of the time they don't want to do business with you.
Oof. The Canadian was coming in hot there. TCO is a terrible measure. I would not like to be his CFO. But it does pose some interesting questions. We've got to think about, we tend to think about all the outputs, not necessarily the inputs. TCO, remember, it's going to be a control. It's something we all have to think through when we're doing the budgeting for this. So have we really addressed the conversation around TCO today? I'm really keen to hear what you think of our 5 debaters as we go to review. We're going to be putting a poll up in just a moment so you can vote on who is this week's winner. So we had the 5 answers. We had 1 migraine and a few hidden costs, probably an invoice for later. Is TCO financial metric a cultural test, as Finn said, or is it just another acronym that we're pretending to understand? The platform guys seem to think it's worthwhile. You got to decide, vote for your winner. Remember, in the SCAYLE debate, The smartest answer is not always the loudest one, but it's usually the one we clip for LinkedIn. But let us know who you think should win. Is it going to be Matt Ezyk, Rob Garf, Suze Dowling, our reigning champ, Dave Finnegan, or Lee Trotter? All with kind of disparaging views of what TCO is. But I'd love some finance people on the end of this call to tell us who the real winner is. I'm going to be pulling up the poll results in just a moment, and then we're going to be announcing who today's winner is. Going to give you another couple of moments. Just 30 seconds more to go, and we will be announcing who today's winner is. Get in quick. Tell us who won. Who's your money on? Okay, as I have it here, has everybody voted? We've got a couple more people to go. Okay, I'm going to share the results right now. Oh, they're shared. We have a winner. Today's winner is our Canadian, the Mountie. Lee Trotter has done it for Data Realm. Lee, well done. Coming in hot there on the mic was going to be a benefit to you. But stick around. We got 8 more questions to go. We have 8 more weeks of this. We want you guys involved. Come back and join us again next week, where we have the next question in our poll coming up. Rick is going to be back in the hot seat wearing the referee's outfit. You're not going to be dealing with me, Vinny O'Brien, or as my friends love to call me, Hey You in the Bushes. Thanks from SCAYLE and RMW Commerce. Over and out. We'll see you guys next week. Thanks for joining us.